And welcome to another Biddle for Saturday, May 18th. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Very good, thank you.
Can we get a confirmation we're live?
Hello.
I'm seeing us up on the screen
All right.
on YouTube.
How about a sound check from the YouTube chat to say we're good to go, and then we will continue on. Because you never know around here. You just never know. Just
You
saying.
can say that again.
Looks good to me, at
Hey.
least.
You could be broadcasting on hotel Wi-Fi. That's what you can be doing.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
All right. So this week we decided, as a matter of fact, where is Zeb? Is he in here yet?
He's here.
Oh, there he
He's
is. Zeb, you got your audio worked out or what?
No, he might be frozen.
No,
He's
I
frozen.
think he's dropping off.
Yeah.
This happened to him earlier in the day, and it basically was happening. Zoom was just shutting off on him, but it wasn't just Zoom. It was all kinds of different programs. So I don't know. I think he's having hardware issues actually. So
Aw.
all right. Well,
He didn't try to upgrade to Peppermint 10, did he?
yes, but he said he was also having issues with other distros.
That's what I was
Which
gonna
leads me to
ask.
believe that it was a hardware issue because
Yeah,
it wouldn't
right.
happen in multiple distros with it. You
Well,
know.
I got Peppermint 10 running on a laptop here. It seems to be going okay. So I
I
haven't
was
had any
teasing.
issues.
It's I installed it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
teasing.
Teasing.
I've got it installed too. It runs really well.
Wait. Everybody's trying Peppermint 10. We're supposed to be on Ubuntu Studio here.
Rocco
Anyway.
is still happily on Ubuntu Mate 1904.
All right.
And I may be running Mate. I don't know.
You're
We're
not
chatting
sure?
Ubuntu Studio, though, aren't we, Rocco, today?
We
Is that right?
are Ubuntu Studio 1904. So I did not have time this week to check it out, but hopefully you guys did. So, Chris?
Yes, I did check it out, and I was getting kind of excited for it because it had all the multimedia stuff installed, and I'm assuming the packages were good and stuff like that. And then I tried to edit some video, and crash. So needless to say, I wasn't even able to render the video, much less finish any of the edits. I'm going to try a little bit later. I think it's more my hardware because I'm dealing with some pretty ancient hardware and only 2 gigs of RAM.
Now, was the distro crashing or was KDE Live crashing?
Well, it said that Ubuntu Studio experienced an error, and I clicked on report, but KDE Live seemed to still be running. I would get out and get back in just in case.
You didn't happen to click on the little drop-down menu to see what it was having an error with, did you?
No.
Okay.
I didn't even realize that there was a drop-down menu for it. It just came up with a nice big window saying there's a problem with internally with Ubuntu. And like I said, I clicked report problem. So I mean, they got the logs.
Right.
I don't think 2 gigs of RAM is going to help you with that situation either. I wouldn't think. Be not much for KDE Live.
I also have some crippled BIOS. I don't know what's going on with the BIOS. So there might be something going on in, as far as video is concerned.
But
I
isn't
think
2 gigs of RAM really kind of pushing it with KDE Live?
it's kind of pushing it with anything, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wanted to see if I could do it, and the answer is no. But other than that, I really like the way it's laid out. I really like the fact that they have it lives up to its name as studio and offering you the multimedia, all the Audacity. I don't remember what that was. And everything else. So if I had the hardware, I have a feeling I probably would have had a much smoother experience. So I'm not really faulting Ubuntu.
All right. Vash, did you trick out Ubuntu Studio?
I messed with it a little bit. I'm going to upset DOS Geek right away and say that XFCE is... I don't know if it's always XFCE, but I always seem to have a weird issue with XFCE where I will put one monitor as the primary monitor and it'll not make that monitor the primary monitor. I don't know why that is, but it seems to happen in XFCE. I want to say that I remember seeing that in Salient, but it seemed to fix itself. So I haven't messed with it enough lately to know for sure, but I don't know if it was necessarily Ubuntu Studio or if it was XFCE in particular that's causing that problem. But I have noticed it other times with the XFCE stuff. So it's really strange. The other thing that I realized it did is it killed my grub on my main hard drive. So that was fun. But I got in and fixed that. But it's just an annoyance when, you know, I'm telling it to install the grub on another hard drive and yet it somehow kills the grub on my main hard drive. But that is what it did. I did mess around with Jack a little bit because that's kind of one of the big things about Ubuntu Studio is you have the easy options for Jack, but I just didn't have time to really dig into those settings. And then I was going back to the Kubuntu install just to check on something and ended up realizing that the grub had been messed up. So I was just kind of ready to be done at that point. But yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, well, so it went well.
I mean, it could have gone worse, I guess.
All right. We have Jill here. And Jill has been a long-time member of the Linux community, but a first-time person. She's been in the chat, but a first-time on BDLL. Welcome, Jill.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me too. It was so awesome. Yeah. So I actually didn't have a chance to install Ubuntu Studio. I've been so busy doing our streams. But the next time I'm in, I definitely will do a challenge.
Well, you can plug Linux Gamecast and whatnot if you want to.
Okay. So, yeah. So I'm Jill. I'm co-host on Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday. A full-time co-host with Ven Stone and Pedro Mateus, and I'm part of the Linux Gamecast network. And I also do. Enjoy doing game streams with them as well, and I'm also the community manager for Linux Gamecast.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, I missed someone said something.
No, I think that was audio playing in the background, actually.
Oh, okay.
Somebody had the stream on.
But yeah, I mean, it's really been wonderful being their community manager, and doing the show has been awesome. I've always wanted to get into podcasting. I have a background in broadcasting as well as doing computer animation and motion graphics for commercials, and I've done a movie trailer and
nice.
Yeah, so that's my background is computer animation as well as being a tech and building systems and collecting vintage and old hardware. I have several hundred computers.
Wait, did you say several hundred?
Yes. I have literally over 100 in this my computer room, and then I have several hundred in the garage. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Assuming you have mainly laptops in the room that you're
100 desktops.
No, I do have, like, behind me, I have a Sun Spark. I have a Deck Alpha, which is the size of a small table. I've got a PDP 11, and yeah, I've got lots of. I also have a lot of miniature computers in here.
So when are you going to open up a museum?
A lot of people have told me that, and I actually have some computers that the Computer History Museum here in Silicon Valley doesn't have. So I am thinking at some point of donating them, because I've been collecting computers since I've been a kid, and basically I've kept every one I've ever used, and they all work, and they're all the ones that can are running Linux.
That's fantastic.
Sounds like Jill's got a computer for every challenge for the next few years,
Right?
Rocco.
I actually do. And here's the irony. It's Ubuntu Studio. I do have one of my older systems over here with the Ubuntu Studio 1604. I just didn't have a chance to install the new one.
You're
Jeez,
never going to hear her
Ross.
say, well, I don't have anywhere to install it. Yeah.
Right?
No.
She can
Test it.
never use that excuse ever.
Because I'm doing Linux journalism, I have computers set aside just for testing and installing distros, to review on my show as well. So
Nice.
Hey, Jill.
yeah.
So you said you had 1604 Ubuntu Studio. Can you just give us some impressions of how that version of that worked for you? And because you're doing some of the stuff that this distro is
Yeah.
actually focused on.
Actually, it worked beautifully. I was using OpenShot and then installed KDE Live, and they all ran just fine. It actually was really, really smooth. Actually, Ubuntu Studio was one of the very first derivatives. So to have a lot of that software installed, that was before, that was easy to do in Ubuntu and whatnot. So they already had, the apt-get the installs for all the graphics and video software, which was really nice because some of it at the time was hard to get running when they started the distro. So that I do know for sure.
Cool.
All right, I just posted a link to Linux Gamecast in the YouTube chat, so people can find it.
Thank you.
All right, Eric, do you got good news for us for Ubuntu Studio?
I did not really test it out. The only reason being, besides that I couldn't get it running in VirtualBox, I will thank this challenge as the reason that I found QEMU and Virtual Machine Manager, and I got to play with that a little bit today and realized how much. Maybe I don't know if I'm going to say it's better yet because I've only had a few hours with it, but it's pretty incredible. I can see some advantages over VirtualBox, so that'll help with testing in the future. There's really not much I can say about Studio simply because it's just I'm not the audience, right? I'm not a heavy duty creator that needs the real time stuff or that needs low latency or the little piddly things I do are just really, I'm just not there,
Right.
And I could imagine the idea of taking something that's put together for you and being able to put that on a system and have you like a known quantity, right? These are the 4 things I need to be able to produce a podcast or to whatever it is I'm doing. Like I know these tools are going to be there. They're going to be configured properly. It's going to run right. Having that save that amount of time and energy would be amazing. So from that perspective, I'm sure for those who this is intended for, it's a great system. But yeah, I just maybe in the future, I'm very glad that it's there, and I'm curious to see if our creators have had it's good to hear that Jill has had a good experience with it. So
awesome. Aris.
Overall, I like the look of the distro of Ubuntu Studio. I especially like the icons of it. I wish I knew about Jack so that I could give a deeper analysis of the distro. The only 2 suggestions I would have for the distro is if they could use that Disco Dingo wallpaper. I think that's a really good wallpaper this time. They should have used it as the main wallpaper. And if they would add Impress to LibreOffice to the packages you can install with the distro when you're installing it. It doesn't install Impress for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I would think that would fit with the whole Studio point to it. And that's about it.
Okay. Awesome. Peter, you're up, sir.
Thank you. So Ubuntu Studio installed no problem at all on my old Alienware laptop. Run it fine. And I was very pleased to see the theming being nice and blue and black after all that green of Mate last week. So I did like the theming. I must admit that this distro, Ubuntu Studio, has more programs that I've never heard of in any distro. And some of them, I was going through the whole menu, and I didn't recognize half of the programs. So I didn't try them. But for a developer, I'm pretty sure it's very good for development. Very small thing on the XFCE menu, which I had to add. I changed it from Control Escape to Super Z. So, I didn't want to change too much. I just changed it to Super Z. That worked. But when you open the menu and you start typing in term for terminal, it gives you 3 options. I thought, okay, that's weird. First one is called Terminal Emulator, and you open that, and it's XFCE terminal. Then there's a menu item for XFCE terminal. When you click on that, that's actually the XFCE terminal preferences, not the terminal itself. So it's strange to have that in the menu. And the third one is Xterm. So a very small point, but it was a little strange. Now, this may open up some chat to some other people. I don't have much knowledge on this whatsoever. I did a lot of research today. But I noticed that the kernel it's running is 5.0.013 low latency. So I didn't know what that was. So I started researching, found out it's a type of kernel that's more designed for hardware, but I believe it's probably for the microphone jacks and all that stuff, for checking more constantly. And anyone who knows more, correct me. But I was researching that, and that's what I was finding out. Of course, normal Ubuntu, other Ubuntu use the regular kernel. So I have a question for someone who's in the know. If Ubuntu Studio uses the low latency kernel, and the other Ubuntus use the regular kernel, but Ubuntu Studio is going to make a package that translates to the other Ubuntus, is that compatible with one being low latency and the other one being regular? I don't know.
Yes, it should be. The only differences that you would really see if you install that package to basically convert your distro to being Ubuntu Studio you might not get quite as good performance, but that really depends on what exactly you're doing. Otherwise, it may actually install the low latency kernel for you as like a dependency if it's a meta package, but it's not going to cause any huge issues that I'm aware of, because Draugr OS uses a low latency kernel, and between that and what I've seen with the generic kernel, it's really mostly just performance differences. There's no compatibility differences otherwise.
I also read that it's more of it was more used for low speed cores or dual cores. But today, when you've got like 8 cores, I've got 16 cores in mine. So there's more power in the CPUs. So the latency doesn't matter as much these days.
It still comes into play when you're dealing with audio. To get the higher quality audio is where the low latency really has the biggest effect.
Particularly because Linux's audio is so heavily software-based rather than hardware-based. We have so many more options in that regard, in the way that's handled. So you can see a greater effect of it just because there's so much more happening.
Okay. So other than that, it's a Ubuntu with a lot of software. We're running a low latency kernel, but I would use it if I had to. It seems to be a good distro regardless.
Nice. Whew, we escaped the low latency kernel conversation.
But the good news is, Peter, you can, when you boot into Grub, just drop down one item, because the next item on there is normal kernel.
Okay, I didn't check that.
Yeah. All right, Adam. You got some good news for Ubuntu Studio or what?
No, not at all. So I use VMware, and let's just say I could get it to boot to the desktop, and then about 5 seconds later, the whole thing hangs. And I did the try install, the try before installing. Same thing. Got to the desktop, 5 seconds, and hang. Then I tried just, maybe I'll just go straight into the install, whatever, right? I get to the installation, it starts going, and it gets to the point where you have to select the package groups you wanted to install, and then it would hang there. I don't know if it's an issue of the low latency kernel. I didn't see, I didn't even think to look for a different kernel to try that out. But I was unable to install it, so I was unable to look at it. But it's traditionally been a pretty interesting distro. I was kind of looking forward to seeing if I could get Jack to do anything, but that's about it.
It's all good, man.
Hey, Adam, just to let you know, I talked to Eric about this. So they have on their release notes that Ubuntu Studio is not intended for virtual machines and is not supported in virtual machines. So it's not just you.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Well, that would have been nice to know last week, so everybody didn't.
It might have something to do with the low latency kernel, because I know some of the distros that use that kernel have issues with VirtualBox.
Okay.
Could also be the kernel that Drugger OS uses has an issue in virtual machines, and if you go into the grub configuration thing, where when you select how it would boot and you edit the commands, if you go down to the line that starts with Linux and go to the very end of it and put in no thread IRQs as like all one word, typically that'll get it to boot. So it might be something to do with that. It might be something else. I don't know, because I don't use that specific kernel.
I feel like I'm getting too old for that kind of stuff. Like I just want to.
You're never too old.
Thomas, is it the same kernel for Drago OS?
No, it is not. We use something that's extremely closely related to the Zim kernel.
Okay.
Like it's essentially the exact same thing, just precompiled. That's all it is.
All right. Barring any more kernel talk, Colin.
Yes, I installed Ubuntu Studio. I've been running it for quite a few days now. Haven't really had a chance to get right into it, but just checking out where their most of their applications come from. They all seem to be from the repositories. There doesn't seem to be any snaps or flatpaks installed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be that way. Like the wallpaper they got going out of the box, quite nice. Also, it works as far as I know. I haven't tried editing any video or anything, but they seem to have just about every multimedia application that you could think of in there. So I noticed they got this little Ubuntu Studio controls where you can tweak certain audio setups and that. So I don't know much about Jack and all that, so I didn't really get into that, but I just noticed that that's there, and it gives you some tweaks for your audio. So that's a nice little touch there, I suppose, that might help people out that do all that sort of stuff. So I like their theme out of the box. Is not bad. Seems to be like some sort of adapter theme that they've named Materia. So haven't heard of that one before. Definitely the top buttons and title bar looks like adapter anyway, I think. Besides that, it seems like the sort of if you really want to just get into some sort of multimedia or just something that you want to get straight into, editing videos or creating videos or any graphics design and all that, that's definitely the distro that you'd want to be using. So, and I find it just runs. So I haven't had any errors or anything like that. So that's my experience.
All right. Paul, are you here, brother?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you try Ubuntu Studio 1904?
Yeah, I did on this little Asus. And I don't know if it's that kernel, but it seems to run a little quicker than other operating systems. If I put Windows 10 on this, you can't even play like YouTube. That's how slow it is.
Right.
But I can actually play videos on it now with Ubuntu Studio. So it must be that low latency kernel that I was thinking. And I've always liked XFCE too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like it.
Nice. Dan, you're up, sir.
Yeah, I don't have anything to report other than, as far as testing this week. Been a little busy, but I will say this. There's been a lot of behind the scenes work, as far as administratively that Ubuntu Studios had to go through in this last cycle. So it's really good to see them still as an official flavor. They've done a lot of work to solidify that, and I expect that we'll see some
some more things feature wise, maybe coming from them in upcoming releases. So that's good. They did roll out the Ubuntu Studio installer, which you can put on any of the flavors, and that's a pretty neat feature where you can go through and pick the things that you want to pull in, and one of them is the kernel. But they have the checkboxes for all of the add-ons that you want, and so if you wanted KDE, you can do that, and then just pull in the Ubuntu Studio stuff. And they've got their Ubuntu Studio controls, which helps a lot with Jack. Making it a little more usable for people. So that's kind of good. That's pretty much all I've got to report, I guess.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and hopefully everybody can hear me. So, Thomas, you're up next, and your mission, should you accept it, is to discuss Ubuntu Studio without mentioning low latency kernel. And go.
Okay, so as much as I would like to accept this mission, I cannot.
Oh, jeez. Thomas, please don't do this as a comparison between Ubuntu Studio and Draugr OS.
No, I'm not, because I didn't get to try Ubuntu Studio this week because I've been busy with a release for Draugr OS coming up next Saturday. So, yep.
So you succeeded. Well done.
Succeeding without meaning to succeed. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, Barbara. Let me guess. No, you didn't try it.
No, I didn't try it. I wanted to. I actually downloaded it. And I was going to try it, but things just got so crazy at work and everywhere else that I just never got around to being able to do it.
All right.
And try it. So I'm still interested in it. I think the idea of it's great.
And the good news is you now know you have to do it on bare metal because you can't do it in a VM.
Well, I never do it in a VM anyway. Usually.
Oh, excellent.
I'm using an old ThinkPad 420 now as my test machine.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to touch anything else. The ones I use every day, they work perfectly. So
nice. All right, then. Thank you very much indeed. Bill, Frank and Bill, you're up, my friend.
So I did try it, and apparently I'm very lucky because I just put it in VirtualBox and didn't have a problem. I can't really say a lot about it because I'm not its target audience. It has a lot of stuff that just doesn't apply to me. But if I can look at XFCE and what they've done there, and I really like the look and feel that they created. I think their theming, the icons that they've done, everything that they have look and feel. And I know Eric spent a lot of time working on trying to make it improve its looks. They had I think Dan mentioned, and if you're not really aware, the distro was kind of in a danger zone of losing its flavor status, and it kind of was drifting for a little bit, and the team that came in and took it over, and they haven't been on it very long, have done a lot to, they've ensured that it's going to remain a flavor, an official flavor, and they've done a lot. I just can't look at it and give what does it do for me. I just think they've done really nice looking and done a lot of hard work, and I respect and appreciate that.
Cool. All right then. Well, thank you very much indeed. Steve, did you get a chance to do it while sunning yourself in your holiday villa?
Oh yeah, really. No, I'm here for the free beer, but I haven't seen any. No, I have not had a chance because when you guys made the challenge, I was on this lovely hotel Wi-Fi, and I think the ISO is too large to download. So.
Mm-hmm. All right then.
So next.
Thanks very much, Steve. Tony, you're up.
Can you hear me?
We certainly can.
It's about time, Tony.
I finally got a microphone that works.
Another radio voice guy. Welcome to Biddle, Tony.
I did try it briefly, but to quote what Bill said, it's not really designed for me. But I do like the way it looks, the theme and the icons. Other than that, it's about all I've got to say about it, really.
Okay, fair enough. Dave?
I will start this with the caveat that I know just enough to be dangerous. The first thing I noticed when I was installing it, most of my other distros that I install, I put a 256 meg EFI partition, and Ubuntu Studio was like, that's too small. So I had to go through and redo, I think it was demanding at least 260 something, so I just made it 512. And then it was happy. It installed. I used actually your trick, Zeb, of not scaling it up to 2x, but just changing the DPI on the font to make it look nice. Installed the PPA for the graphics drivers, the NVIDIA drivers. As long as you leave everything the way it installs and don't try and tweak anything, it runs nice. As soon as you try and tweak anything, it likes to lock up and you have to go in and start removing Xorg configure files.
Mm-hmm.
In the bar across the top, the indicator plugin, I could not track down any way to increase those icons. Everything else in the upper bar I could get to size properly when I increased the size of the bar. But the indicator plugin doesn't have that option in its settings particularly. And I couldn't find any way online digging around to do it. XFCE, because I run dual monitors, has some issues about, starting where I start apps on different workspaces. And a couple of things I tweaked. I have no idea what it was I did, but every time I boot into it now, the first thing that comes up is, a problem has been detected. Would you like to report it? Yes. And the box goes away and it never tells me what the problem was or what got reported. So I have no idea whether it actually went, or so whether they've been getting lots of reports from me or just nothing is going through. And trying to get the i386 architecture added to make sure that Steam would run nice. Couldn't quite get that sorted out. And then I ended up making some change somewhere in the audio config so that when I desperately boot it back in to join here at the start of the show, there was no sound coming through. So that's why I had to drop out and swap distros real quick to jump into my Arch distro so that I could actually get into the group. But other than that, the problems I know are of my own making. I like Ubuntu Studio as long as I leave everything the way they install it. It runs very nice. It has all of the software that I use for publishing and video stuff. I don't know enough about audio to properly use Jack, though I want to learn. So it's a great distro. I love it. I just, like I said, I know enough to be dangerous, and I keep breaking it. So
now, Dave, is that error the generic Ubuntu error when it wants to send the error report? Do you know?
I have no idea what error it is. It doesn't tell me. It just says a system error has been detected. Do you want to report it?
Well, usually in an Ubuntu-based distro, it'll pop something up like that, and in the box, there's a little tiny drop-down menu where you can it's a little arrow. It's not very noticeable where you could click it and see exactly what the file it was using when it had the error before you hit send report.
After the stream, I'll swap them back out and see what it is then.
That actually happens on or that did. I can't say it's happened on 1904, but that used to happen all the time for me on Ubuntu Mate, to the point where I would have to uninstall the apport program so it would stop saying please send.
That may be because I ran my setup script that dumps 40 different programs on. So it was after I did all my linking, sim linking and installing and setting up of all kinds of wacky software that I always put in, that it started showing up. So
Hey, just a quick thing for everybody using any of the Ubuntu based. So if you get those messages, you can actually go see if those exist in var crash. If there's files in var crash, if you remove those files, it's not going to hurt anything. Sometimes when those reports come out, those don't get cleared out of there. And when it does its check, if it sees something in var crash, it's just going to report that. You're going to keep getting that pop up. So if you just go to var crash, you can remove everything in there, and that should go away. You can also actually look through those crash files if you really care to.
I will do that. Thank you.
Good info. All right, Joe. Did you get to try Ubuntu Studio?
I'm on it right now.
Nice. What do you think?
And actually, you're going to laugh about this probably, but my little cube computer, which had Linux Mint, I'm actually on my very old 22-inch monitors. I'm running dual monitors. My new 27-inch, I actually thought it went out today. That's how bad it got with Mint on here. And it got me very nervous thinking it was the computer or whatever. So I decided to do an install. And I was going to put Studio on my laptop, and I didn't. And this week got away from me. I had some other things that happened this week, unfortunately, that got in the way. So I literally distro hopped before this, about an hour before here with this. So
that's called an extreme distro hop, Joe.
Yeah, well, and I have some familiarity with this. Typical the map key, the super key. I don't know why they do the control escape. I remapped it. I just basically created a new map for the super key and got rid of the other one. That's an easy fix, but it's annoying that they do that. Interestingly enough, the volume control on my keyboard, all the volume controls and everything, nothing works. It's like it doesn't recognize it, which that kind of bothers me too. I know, like in Peppermint, you turn the knob, you can't see it. I like when it shows up when you're adjusting the volume. This doesn't even do that. It doesn't do anything for it. So that's a little bit annoying. I wish they would install Synaptic from the start, because I think that's something that a lot of people use. The other thing that I don't remember this doing it in 1804. When you go to do something in the panel, like you want to add, an applet or whatever, the panel flashes. And that really kind of, I don't know why they feel it needs to flash, but that's a little bit on the annoying side. I do know on Mint, if you go to bring up GUVC View to adjust the camera lighting or whatever, it'll say it's an error, but then you say cancel, and it'll still allow you to adjust it so you can see whatever you're doing. It'll share the camera. This won't. You have to literally shut the camera off to be able to use that. That's not a big deal, but it's just something that I noticed. Also, like Dave, I've a couple times had this problem reporting pop up, and I do usually look for that little drop down. I honestly, in fairness, didn't, but I didn't see anything there that caught my attention to look for it either. And I know it is. It's a little tiny arrow. So maybe it's there, maybe it's not. I didn't get the impression it was. It was the same thing. You click it and boom, it just goes away. So the other thing, what's funny is I'm trying to install, while we're sitting here, UKUU. I just wanted to install that, like I always do. And it won't install it. It says it just, put the PPA in or whatever, and it's just interesting. It won't take it. So
it's no longer supported, so I don't think the PPA has a release file for 1904.
Yeah, because with Daniel Richter, isn't it? And I think he's putting several of his apps behind a paywall.
Okay. Well, I know he did that, but there still was a free version scaled down a little bit, and I was able to get it in some other distros.
If they're 1804 based, you will, but I don't, or 1810, but I don't think 1904 is
Okay, and I don't have a problem with maybe paying for that either, because I do like what it does. But is it something that's necessary? No, not really. It does work, fast. It's clean. It's nice looking. As far as what Dave referenced to with the dual monitors, there are settings where you can tell it to open up on your designated default or primary monitor when you go into the display settings. Although that said, it doesn't always open every single thing there. One example is I like putting Gwake in here, and if I hit the F12, like now it's on the right screen, which is my primary. If I close it, hit it again, it brings it up on the alternative screen. I don't know why it's doing that, which that's kind of annoying too, to have it jumping back and forth. I don't know if it's an XFCE thing or whatever, because I've always had some kind of glitches with XFCE. I know Peppermint's kind of like that too, or had been. So I would really like to kind of give the new 10, Peppermint 10, a run on here. The truth of the matter is I'm going to have to find a more permanent distro to run on here, and I may be going back to Mate, or I may go back to Peppermint on here. I don't know. I like Studio. I did load everything up full boat, like I had said last week. I think that's a way to kind of fair test. I didn't run everything, but I just wanted to see what everything installed even before I put anything else in. And at idle, it was just under 700 megs. And I did add, as of today, actually it came today, I added another 8 gigs of RAM in here because I was running 8 gig single rated. I had 2 slots. Now I'm running 2 8 gig single rated sticks of 16 gigs. I got in here. I can run up to 32. I don't know if that really affected anything any differently, but it does seem to be running a lot quicker. It's a single click, boom, it goes. So, I still like the distro. I did like it before. Is it something I would use as a daily user? I would have considered it, but these other little quirks are bugging me. So I don't know. And I am very, very, very disappointed in what happened with Mint. I'm not going to go down that road because that's not what the show is about tonight. But anyway, but I think it's an excellent distro. I would not shy anybody away from trying it. Definitely not. I don't know if what's going on is just 1904 bugs too, or what, So that's it.
All right.
To respond to the multi-monitor, it's more than just primary monitor, secondary for me. Because I actually like setting up my app so that like Sublime Text will show up on desktop 3, screen 1. Sublime Merge will automatically go to desktop 3, screen 2. Firefox will automatically go to desktop 2, screen 1. And, short of using like a script like Devil's Pie, there's really not a way to do that in XFCE. Okay. It's only a matter of primary and secondary.
Right.
One thing I did forget to mention that I did like was in their software store, which I almost never use, but I did actually go in and look at it. When you go to the individual programs, part of the description tells you whether it's coming from the Ubuntu repositories or the Snap store or where it's coming from. And I found that very useful. Because actually the one thing I went in there to install was Telegram, and OBS, and it was going to put it in as a snap, and I said no, and I went into the command line, found it from the PPA, and installed it that way so that it wasn't a snap, because I'm not crazy about snaps. But I did appreciate that in their software store, they did tell you the source that it's coming from, whether it's a snap or native app from the Ubuntu repositories.
Right.
And I have one more thing then in relationship to that. When I went to put Chromium in here, it did say it was a snap. I got an error or something about installing, yet Chromium said it did install. So I don't know why that error popped up. So,
well, do you know what error, what it said, or anything like that, or
it was like an unable to install error, and yet it was there.
That's strange. Yeah, because Chromium's no longer being packaged by Ubuntu in the normal deb format, so it's all going to be snaps from here on out.
Yeah.
Well, the OBS Studio in the snap version runs pretty well, Dave. If you ever need it, just saying. All right, Chicken, did you try it?
I did, actually. I somehow found time, and I'm actually really impressed. I wasn't too impressed with it in previous releases. It just kind of didn't seem like something that made much sense. But now that I've been using it a little bit more in this release, it's well, I still get those little error found like pop-up things from Apport. It's not as unstable as it used to be, so I don't have like system crashes or hangs to the extent that I used to. Honestly, the only crashes I've had have been due to my own fault. So for the most part, stability has improved by quite a bit. Not a huge fan about the low latency kernel, but I see why it's in there. It makes perfect sense. I'm never going to talk about it again. And then there's a lot of stuff in there that I didn't know existed. I mean, I use the basic stuff. It's Audacity. It's KDE Live. It's OBS for me. All this other stuff, I was blown away by just how many tools there were. So I had a fun time playing with all of that, and I learned some things. So it's good.
Yeah, it definitely is packed with whatever you need for audio. I mean, somebody like Scrapjaw, that would be something for him because of playing with all the audio programs and whatnot. Jack. I mean, I've never personally used Jack, but from the people that do use it, they love it. Once they got it set up, they love it. So I don't know. It's not something that I
want to try it. If you want to try it, that's probably the way to do it because I think they give you some better tools to learn it. So
yeah, I don't really want to learn it.
No, well, for anybody that does, I think they give you some better tools to pick it up.
Right.
So a couple people brought up the bug reports. Do Dan or Bill, do you guys know, do those things actually automatically send, or I mean, is there like a server somewhere getting inundated like when you're testing?
Yeah, they would go to Launchpad.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you click send, they do. Yeah, but
send them.
yeah.
Okay.
But yours might not have went. If you look in VarCrash and it's still there, for some reason it might not have gone. And then every time you probably try to reopen that same program, it might pick up that there was a crash there, and it's just going to let you know every time until you delete it out.
Yeah, I was thinking of it more from not whether or not it got sent, but just not whether I was worried that it got sent, but just like, are you getting completely flooded with?
There's a fair bit that comes through. Yeah.
I mean, is it smart enough to kind of group them together and not
it ties it to the package that has the error report. So teams that are working on certain packages will get those. And if it doesn't have a specific package to put it to, it'll put it to the DE or whatever.
Okay.
Eric, there's a lot of information that we don't normally see outside of it that gets sent into Launchpad that you kind of get, and some of that goes into, because a lot of this stuff is going into the core Ubuntu guys as well.
Yep.
That are the security guys get their work. The security guys don't get any credit. They work really, really hard on everything that's running on. But there's a lot of information that comes in.
Yeah, it pulls a lot of system info in for you too, automatically, so you don't even have to worry about that. That's the great thing about the reporting, is it'll pull in your kernel and everything. You don't have to do any of that.
Well, I know there's that tool that you can manually start. It's like Ubuntu bug report or something.
Ubuntu bug, Ubuntu-bug, and then you can tie that to a package as well. So even if you didn't get a crash report, you can submit a bug that way.
I just think, all this testing that we do, because it's such a variety of people, variety of equipment, if we were actually getting that information back, it would be helpful. So it sounds like it is going back, which is good.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any opinions on the differences between Ubuntu Studio and XFC, or is Ubuntu, I mean? Are there major differences in the two? I mean, besides the audio software that's added in Ubuntu Studio.
Theming.
I think Ubuntu looks better. I mean, Studio looks better than Ubuntu.
I agree with the out-of-the-box look. I think Ubuntu Studio looks better than Ubuntu's base look. But that's one of the things that some people say, that Studio is just Ubuntu with some stuff thrown onto it, and that's kind of that's very unfair to both distros. But I mean, it is XFCE on a Ubuntu base, so there's going to be a lot of similarities. But I mean, look and feel, it. I think that they really did I mean, it's Eric. A lot of this stuff that came out, Eric was really pushing to make it look better, because it was really dated looking. And I mean, it's XFCE, and people make that joke all the time, but I think they really made it look like a very nice looking distro when you boot it up. And he's very proud of the wallpaper, because that's his wallpaper, the default wallpaper. So, but I mean, I think it looks good, but it is XFCE on Ubuntu, so there are some similarities.
Yeah, and I would say that even, the extra packages that they put in there, they might not exist in Ubuntu if it were not for Studio, because they package some of the things that end up in there. So Carla is one of them.
Yep.
And that might not exist in Ubuntu if it were not for Studio. So I think beyond what they're doing to the DE to give it some theme, they're bringing in some packages that might not happen either.
All right. Well, anything anybody else wants to add on Ubuntu Studio? All right. Well, that's our take on Ubuntu Studio. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to try it, so sorry about that, but that's the way it is.
Rocco, can you believe we did that in less than an hour?
And we avoided the low latency kernel. Win-win all around.
We avoided the
for a minute there.
Well, if you want to discuss the kernel,
No, Dave. Anyway, moving on.
We can make that the rest of the episode.
We are in the middle of the Ubuntu's, so Peppermint 10 just came out, but we are still going to continue on with the Ubuntu's. And I would love to just switch over to Peppermint 10 and check it out.
I'm waiting for Zeb to pop up and.
Isn't Peppermint based on Ubuntu?
Yes, it is based, but it's not a flavor. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do all
the
the
best
flavors.
flavor.
Can we do like a 12-hour first impressions of Peppermint 10?
As soon as we're done picking a new distro, you can talk about whatever you like, Frank. So if you want to bring up Peppermint 10, you're more than welcome to do that. So we have Ubuntu and we have Kubuntu, as far as I know, left to try. Who wants to
what
try?
What about Budgie? We didn't do Budgie, did we?
We had done
that's
it.
right. We did the beta of Budgie.
We did the desktop.
You did the beta of Ubuntu base.
We didn't do 1904
You're right, Dave.
Budgie, though.
Dave, you are right. We did the Budgie desktop. That's what we did.
What about chilling?
I don't know if we would be able. I mean, we could try it. I mean, it's not really for us to use. Like, it's not designed for us to use, but we could try it. But I think we should get one of the two big ones out of the way. Either regular stock Ubuntu or Kubuntu.
I reckon Kubuntu.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm down with Ubuntu because I've already got that in a VM. So.
That's cheating, Adam?
Now, so.
Well,
that's also cheating, Vash.
See, I'm just ahead of the game, man.
And Eric is cheating as well.
Well, I'm the barb of Kubuntu, so
I run it on my laptop here too.
You see, you're all cheating.
And I didn't Zeb mention in the Telegram chat that we were doing Studio this week and Kubuntu next week.
Yeah,
so
I thought something was about like that. I thought
I was not here.
He's not here to say yes or no.
He was. He disappeared.
I'm
again.
installing Ubuntu right now.
He's definitely having computer
Hardware
issues. Yeah.
I'm going to make the plea that I think that Kubuntu in general does not get very much recognition. I mean, and I know DistroWatch isn't like the way to judge that, but I just don't hear much about it. GNOME and the variants of GNOME are all the default desktops of so many distributions, And I mean, since I've joined this group, we've done nothing with KDE.
Well, that's because Michael Tunnell's not on here.
Yeah.
Well, don't let him ruin it for you. I mean, I'm another.
Well, I can't say, you can't say we
fanboy.
haven't done anything with KDE because we did Salient, and I tried the KDE version. I'm pretty sure.
But that wasn't. We didn't do it as part of the.
As part of the challenge.
Right.
For everybody, I think I agree.
No, we picked Salient, and you could pick whatever desktop you liked, and some of us picked KDE.
I think one of the
Same
problems
way
is
with
He didn't. No, he didn't have the KDE when we
out.
did it. No.
He did not.
He made that special for you. But some of us chose right.
special
That's
for me?
okay. That's good.
Wait, did you hear what Mark Reeves said in the chat? He said he doesn't want to be an Ubuntu flavor because then they would be called Ubuntu.
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 Ubuntu Peppermint. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah,
But to be,
But yeah, you
to
don't
be
want
fair,
to.
we have covered distros that have had KDE.
We have
DE options.
Fedora is one of them. Yes.
I always feel that Kubuntu is overshadowed by Neon.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, but I don't think
It's not the same thing though,
I don't-
especially the LTS. But
they're really not.
But the release ones always seem that way.
I think that may have been true, you could say, a while ago when KDE Neon first started out, when they were first released their discs, their ISOs, I mean, and everybody was trying it, and you got the latest KDE on all of it. But I think over time, KDE Neon it was stable, but with consistently upgrading KDE, you ran into many bugs, which kind of threw some people off of that whole KDE Neon trip. And
to be fair, too,
they went to the stable Kubuntu, you know.
And to be fair too, I mean the purpose of KDE Neon is really for testing KDE. I mean, you can use it. It's on an LTS base, which is fine. It comes as a very pared down installation, so there's very few packages installed besides the KDE components. I know a lot of people use it and like it, but Kubuntu, to me, the thing that makes it special is that they put the extra time into changing some of the defaults and settings, and it's a real Ubuntu flavor, right? I mean, it's got all of that behind it. So.
Well, I always called KDE Neon the arch of Ubuntu because it was so lightweight. They don't install anything except Plasma. So that was what I ended up using for, I don't know, a couple months.
On a similar note there, it's a testament to just because it's released in stable doesn't make it actually stable.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Does anybody actually notice how big Neon is, the actual ISO compared to Kubuntu? How much bigger it is?
No.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
They're
I don't
preparing
remember. I don't
for
have that good of
us,
a memory.
sure.
I don't remember yesterday.
I think it is bigger, but there's less stuff in there.
I mean, I use Neon all the time for testing stuff because if you're on Neon Unstable, you have yesterday's code, and that's awesome. If they just posted a link to there's some new feature that put into Plasma, then it's going to be there, and that's great, and that's what it's for. I don't know. I'm not going to be on a soapbox about this, but I love Kubuntu so much. I can't believe, for me personally, I've been using it for over a year, and I mean.
Did Michael Tunnell come in the room and we didn't know about it?
No, I'm telling you.
No, he's not here.
And I really do feel like there's so much emphasis on all of these other flavors of Ubuntu, and I would like us all, because I'm curious to see if people don't like it, then let's figure out why. I'd like to hear feedback on, if everyone's like Kubuntu, whatever. I mean, okay, why? So.
Yeah.
I think we should do it. I think we should try it. I really do.
I think we should do Kubuntu next week.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a great idea. Why don't we do Kubuntu next week?
Let's do that.
Kubuntu 1904, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yep, 1904.
I got to get a link to put it in YouTube.
Just to point out, the ISOs are 1.8 gigs. Neon is 1.4, so that's right. So the Neon ones are smaller.
Well, the Neon ended up becoming where if you wanted the latest, like you said, Eric, you wanted to do the unstable. But that also came with issues of being unstable at times. And then if you didn't want the unstable, you could do the LTS. And that also between the releases, that also got so far behind that you might as well run Kubuntu if you're going to stay on the LTS.
The Kubuntu team also offers the backports PPA, which means you get the new stuff on the whatever base you're using.
Yep.
I think they're discouraging people using
Yeah, I
the
was just going to
LTS
say
now.
that, Chicken.
The Neon LTS, I think they're discouraging that now.
It's not even available anymore.
The backports, if
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's me rubber banding or if it's the rest.
It might be you, dude.
Okay. Anyway, I was gonna echo what Chicken was saying, which is that the backports. So I ran 1810 up until maybe 3-4 days ago, and if you had backports, you were only maybe one release behind. They do a great job of keeping up on. So even there, like the gap between what you get on Neon versus Kubuntu, if you're using backports, is very narrow.
Right.
How is Kubuntu anybody's experience? I haven't used it in so long on dual monitors. Does anybody have any experience with that?
For me, it's excellent. I have a 23-inch external and then my 15-inch laptop, and I mean, it's all configurable. You can set scale and arrangement, like the built-in monitor or display configuration is very good.
KDE in general has some issues with dual monitors as far as placement, where it might go to the wrong monitor, but it also has so many settings that you can completely fix that without a problem. So there's a setting in there to follow the active mouse, or the screen will follow the active mouse. So whatever window you open will be on whatever screen you have your mouse in. And also you can tell each specific program where to open and what monitor to open on. So even though by default it still has some issues as far as placement, you can easily fix that.
KDE is great on my dual monitors and what, 6 or 7 different desktops with dual monitors. The only I never run into problems with KDE. It's just on Ubuntu sometimes the NVIDIA drivers, getting them set up the way I like, are an issue. But KDE, no, that is solid and great for multi-monitor.
Yeah, I got dual monitor also, and I have no issue.
I would agree. I run 3 monitors. In fact, I game spanning 3 monitors, and KDE runs beautifully with them. I have never had an issue.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I just got a new, right now, a 43-inch monitor, or a computer monitor.
Wow.
And,
nice.
It's incredible. And for me, it's really good because I'm blind in one eye. So it's really helpful.
Very nice.
Oh, Jill, that explains a lot, because I was just talking to somebody about that today. I was toying with the idea of getting a 42 or 43-inch monitor, and I said, do I really want to be looking up? And I noticed your camera was facing down and you're looking up a little bit, and I go, well, that kind of explains it. You got like 4 22-inch monitors in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to, that we all talk about KDE has so many tweaks and all. I think that's one of the biggest criticisms of KDE for a lot of people. But I would really like to see Kubuntu or somebody do what Mate does with a one-click change. Because I would have thought that that the KDE desktop has good tool set to do that.
What are you talking in the beginning, like in the welcome screen, or
desktop layouts and stuff?
Well, they do have a look and feel.
Yeah, but that's sort of new, isn't it, at the moment? I don't know if it's...
No, but they had the Redmond, which was like the XP kind of layout, and Cupertino, which is more like the Mac. Mate's had that for quite a while, so
KDE
it's not really that new.
Has a look and feel section that you can use. It has like 2, I think, there by default, and more that you can download. So...
there is more.
Yeah, and what happens is if you go to the look and feel, you not only can change the theme, but there's a little checkbox on the bottom left that says use the layout or use the... I forget exactly what it says, but it says something like use the theme layout. And what that does is if you check it, it will change the screen, the panels, to what the author of the theme wanted. Like it might change the panel to the top and the bar to the left as well. So it's not just changing the theme. But you got to know you want that before you check that. You know what I mean? Because it will change your panels around.
There are some systems that have gone the extra. So I think it's Nixo, or not NixOS, but Nitrix, and they have what's closer to what Mate does with these weird like configurators where you can click it and then it changes the whole thing. But
yeah, and actually Farron OS too, like his OS Next has themes, and it's really slick the way he's done that. I actually hope that the KDE team takes a look at some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to mention one other thing too, for folks that prefer maybe the Apple look or want a dock. Latte Dock, which is a KDE only thing,
is awesome.
Is a really cool app. So and it's very configurable, customizable. There's lots of fun tweaks. I mean, you could spend hours just playing with that, but it's solid too. So as you're testing, if you kind of don't like some of the panels or you're looking for a solid dock, Latte Dock is definitely worth a shot.
Has Discover gotten any better?
You know what? It is getting. I was doing testing on 5.16 Plasma 5.16 today, and it's doing the things it should do fundamentally much better than it had been. Like the updates are working much better now. The layout, and when you click something, things don't kind of go crazy. Like there was just a lot of buggy kind of things in it, and a lot of that is gone now. Like you may not like some of the layouts of it. You may not like a software center, or there's probably a lot more to go. But in terms of just does it do what it should do, it does do that now.
Yeah, I think it's a ton better.
Yeah.
I actually like Discover. I reckon it's quite a nice looking software manager, to be honest. Discover. I've never really.
Yeah. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it just seems like it's always had some
That's
kind
such
of...
a compliment, Joe. It's
What's
not the
that?
worst. It's not the worst thing in the world. That's such a compliment.
Well, no, I've heard some guys really pretty harsh on it. I didn't think that was necessarily fair, but it seems like it's always been riddled with some kind of things. But from a look standpoint, yeah, I don't think it's the worst looking thing in the world, and it seemed to work okay. But it always seemed to be having some kind of buggy whatever,
it's terrible, Joe. It's terrible. Okay.
No, I think a lot of features got thrown at it in a short amount of time, and now they're starting to go back and fix the buggy stuff from the add-on, so quickly.
Nice.
So
it's
come a long ways. It still has some bugginess, I guess, and some of it is just inherent because when you start to launch it, it's pulling a lot of that app data in the background. So it's a little slow at the start, but if you just let it go, and it'll pull it in, and then it starts to work like a ton better. So
okay, so that being said, Dan, is it really that it's not what everybody expects, or is it just because we're so used to things getting so fast now that we're impatient? Because I think there's, you have to kind of remember that too. If you got something that's doing that kind of work, and I agree with you. I mean, if it's pulling all that information in the background, you got to give it a fair chance. I mean, for everything to load instantly, it makes you'd have to wonder, okay, what is it missing, or what is it not doing?
If that's the issue that's happening, I would recommend some kind of pre-built package cache list instead of making it generate this stuff on startup, because that's just, especially if you've got like a lower powered computer, you shouldn't be generating that yourself.
My problem.
I agree. It tries to pull it on the fly, and maybe that's not the best approach.
Chris, are you swearing into testimony or?
No, just raising hand in internal chat doesn't seem. I just so we're agreed we're going to be doing Kubuntu this time around, right? Okay, I just had a couple questions for our guest here.
Yes.
And if we could, if you guys don't mind changing subject a little bit.
Aw. I was going to mention that the KWin compositor has a lot of issues. There's definitely a lot of issues there, and they are improving it. But there are issues with timing and all kinds of stuff. But they're getting it better and better for each release.
Well, you mentioned timing and about Discover. In my opinion, if you're going to use Discover, I know that, Joe, you said it might be too early. We're expecting too much. If you put it out there to be your main software center, then we should expect it to perform good and well. If you have it in the background as a second software manager, maybe we probably wouldn't be so hard on it. But especially when you're pushing it for, hardware updates as well, firmware updates now are going to be coming into Discover. If you're going to be pushing it that far, then it better perform well. That's all I can say. And Latte Dock is awesome. Eric, what you said about it, I replace all of my panels with Latte Dock instances. So I don't even run a KDE panel.
And if you don't like software centers, which I don't like them on any system, period. I mean, the only one that I even think is tolerable is Mint, because I think they do a good job. But Muon, M-U-O-N, is the graphical package manager if you don't want to do like apps from the command line.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's an option as well.
Part of the issues that I've been having is I've been noticing that not just on Kubuntu, but a lot of distros using KDE, is that they don't just stick to, okay, we're going to be using Discover. They also have another application installed, which is like Plasma 5-package or something like that. That's another software thing that handles just the updates of packages, which is also separate from another piece of software, which I believe is Package Kit, which is also doing the same thing. And if any of them could get all of that bundled into at least one, maybe two things, wouldn't be an issue.
Yep.
But because it's touching all these separate components that are all doing their own things, it's never going to get there.
This is what I'd like to hear from the review, though. So next week, let's get this stuff out, because I'd really like to get as much of this back to the team as possible, so they, aren't focused on maybe things that aren't as important. What are the barriers that keep people from liking it or using it? Is it just because you don't like KDE? Okay, great. There's very little we can do about that. But if there's something that is...
Well, I can tell you one thing right now, Eric. KDE, out of all of the desktops, because of what it is and how vast it is in its settings, needs something like a welcome screen. Like a Ubuntu Mate welcome screen, or I forget what's the OS that has a Captain, I think it's called. It's like a mini welcome screen type program, and I don't even know if it's actively developed anymore. But it was hey, here's this. Do you want to change your theme? Do you want to change your this, that? That is the biggest barrier I always hear when people look at KDE is the settings are just too much for me. I don't want, I don't need that much settings. But if you could make it to where you could do the basic stuff when you install it, and you could do the basic stuff for your system and then just let it get out of the way, I think KDE would go a lot further.
Mint, maybe you're referencing Mint, because Mint actually does that when it brings up the welcome screen. It walks you through step by step for your setup stuff.
No, well, the welcome screen I'm talking about is a KDE-based app, and it's on one of the, I forget if it's on Chaos or if it's on one of those offshoots of a KDE.
Chaos has a pretty good,
and it's called Captain.
Yeah, I know the one you're referring to.
Is that Captain with a K?
You better believe it.
But I think, like I said, if they had that would be if I could have one thing in KDE for it to go further, that would be it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Chaos, their welcome screen, it just pulls some of the specific settings panels. So when it'll take you through, like if you want to change icons, like you click a button on the welcome screen and it just brings up the icon as a separate panel. Instead of, because I think probably one of the biggest problems is the way that setting screen is, the system settings. You go in there and it's just like, I mean, like I said, I've been using it for a year, and there's still times where I'm like, I know it's in here somewhere.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Can I say one thing in Plasma's defense? I know a lot of people always say, "Oh, I like Linux, but I don't want to use the terminal." There's no terminal to customize a Plasma. If you want a desktop to customize just in the GUI, then you got to go Plasma. Otherwise, you got to use config files and you got to do other stuff.
Not really.
To the level of it. Let's just say to the level of it.
All right. Well, let's see what the feedback is.
Yeah.
Let's see what people say for this week.
Let's do it and see what happens.
Okay, Jill, I did have a couple questions for you.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Right. Yeah. If you don't mind me geeking out a little bit here.
No, not at all.
I was just curious, which PDP you had?
PDP 11, and I actually don't have the full computer. I have the terminal, so I have it emulated to run. But I don't. I have the terminal, but not the big switch box.
Well, Chris,
you don't have the CPU though.
Yeah, correct.
Darn.
Chris, why don't you tell her where you're at right now?
Well, where I'm at? I'm at the. I forgot.
Are you in a museum?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Vintage Radio and Communications Museum of Connecticut is where I am right at the moment.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
But I cut my teeth a lot on a PDP. That's why I was.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, what's the OS you have running on that? Do you have a Unix or a Ristus or?
Unix. Yeah.
Unix, and same thing with the Alpha.
Yeah. Actually, okay. So my DEC Alpha, I have the original OS, which was Unix that it came with, which was True 64, because it was the first 64-bit machine, and the other is Debian. So, and I used that as my render farm for years for my.
No love for VMS then, huh?
It works well. It works well. Actually, yeah. I learned Unix on VMS, so I like it too.
But you got Debian working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, because I have an Alpha and I was wanting to put Linux on it, and the only Linux I found that go with the kernel with the CPU was CentOS.
Oh yeah. No, Debian still maintains their support for DEC, because a lot of the DEC computers are still in use in production. Right. Yeah.
Even if HP is trying to kill it. So.
Yeah, very true. In fact, I don't know if you can see it. I've got a companion cube right now, and my DEC Alpha is that big beige case. It's literally it weighs over 100 pounds, and it's on casters.
Right.
And it's the first dual proc 500 megahertz 64-bit processors from 1995.
Okay, well, I thank you for let me.
No, that's great. I'm glad
down the nostalgia lane there, and we can get back to the conversation.
Sorry, everyone.
No, that's what we're here for. We're here to discuss stuff.
Oh,
I want to know what's up with all the penguins. That's what I want to know.
Oh, yes. I literally have probably about 100 stuffed penguins. I've kind of lost count. And it started at the Southern California Linux Expo. I run the Linux Chicks LA booth. And so every year we bring more and more penguins for the booth. And that's just kind of how it happened. I just started collecting all the different versions of Tux, and actually different people have given them to me. Like this is the Za Reason penguin, and they gave that one to me. It's a gift.
Nice. Very nice. All right, this hour, or well, less than an hour now, is open to whatever we want to discuss. So Frank, you wanted to discuss something earlier?
Oh yeah, I was just kind of making last night about bedtime. I saw this post come up on Twitter that there is this new OS that just got released. So it was like a 12 hours of Peppermint. And that's all I was kind of, I mean, I downloaded it, installed it. And I mean, there's some things, I think Mark's I gotta be careful because Mark's on the YouTube chat. So, but I mean, there's a few things about Peppermint that I don't love, but it's a wonderful OS, and 10 is really nice. It's got, I think, 4.0.6 Nemo, and
yep.
I mean, it's looking really good. I mean, I don't like, Mark, I'm sorry, I do not like your default terminal, and the first thing you have to do is put in XFCE 4-terminal in there to get rid of that. But I mean, it looks really nice, speedy. Obviously, it's I have a Frankenstein avatar, and Frankenstein and Peppermint are kind of that combination, because you've got XFCE with the Ubuntu, with Linux Mint, and with LMDE. So it's kind of, I mean, it is for what having all of those things combined together in an operating system and having it work as well as it does says a lot about that development team.
Yes, I agree. That says a lot, because when you try to do that, when you try to mix stuff like that, it doesn't always work out well. But I don't think you should be sorry to mention, even like Mark's in the chat. Mark's a great guy. He's going to take that. He's going to take that, well. He's not going to just be mad and walk away. You know what I mean?
I was joking. And I think it's a wonderful operating system. Obviously it's one of those things like coming from Mate, which is this, very interesting color, to Peppermint, which is a very vibrant, bright color scheme. Kind of may break your eyes if you actually switch from one to the other. But it is wonderful. It's really, I would love to see a couple operating systems that are using a current file manager really consider looking at what they've done in bringing Nemo in to an XFCE base. Well, it's not an XFCE based total system, but it has a lot of XFCE flavor in it. And there's some distros that I think that if they took Thunar out and put that in, or even Kaha, they'd be much better off than sticking with Thunar.
Is it Ubuntu or Ubuntu Mate? No, it's definitely not a Mate. Is it Budgie or is it Ubuntu that's using Nemo as well?
Budgie,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Budgie. The Nemo's gaining traction there.
Nemo is the second best file manager on the planet. I love it.
Yes. I agree with that.
I agree that it's the second best as well. So,
well,
we just don't agree on the first best, right, Frank?
Yeah, we're just a little different.
Got this Toshiba Satellite Pro here. It's my boss's mother-in-law's computer. It was running like a dog with Windows 10 on it. It's only got 2 gig of memory on there. So I installed Peppermint 9 Respin 2, and then all of a sudden 10 pops up. So I had to redo the whole thing. I thought, I'm not going to miss this opportunity of putting the latest and greatest on there for somebody. So,
well, I don't know. Are you not able to upgrade from 9 to 10 or what?
I don't know. I just redid it anyway, so it's working all right.
Mark in the chat, are we able to upgrade from Peppermint 9 to 10?
That's a good question.
If you look at the bottom of the release announcement, there was actually somebody had answered that they were going to post in the forum how to do it, but that for right now there wasn't a way to do it.
I know they're working on it because they were hoping to get it into 10, but I don't think they got it in officially, because there wasn't one from 8 to 9, and a lot of people were asking at that change for it to, is there a way to do it? And so they have been working on it, but I don't think that they have it officially released to the public in place yet.
Yeah, let me see what that says real quick. So yeah, it's Mark actually. It said Peppermint. No, that's the wrong one. I'm pretty sure it was Mark that it actually said that they're working on the update for that, or how to do it.
Right.
Why would I want to miss out on an opportunity to reinstall and configure the desktop? Isn't that fun? It's good fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, he says currently would
it is when it works.
Some people play Rocket League. I nuke and pave.
Right? Rocket League's way more fun, though, dude. I'm sorry.
Same time. Some people put toothpicks under their nails for enjoying it, too.
No, Steve, I'm right there with you. I would rather install a fresh distro than play a game any day.
Yeah, I'm the same way, so you're not alone.
Yeah, well, it depends on which game.
It's not Arch.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, and I love both.
Yeah, right?
Why not Arch?
All right, so Mark says in the chat
Because I don't like going to the terminal installing an OS like that.
Mark said there will be instructions.
Arch is very nice.
Yeah. Let's try this one more time.
They're not going to automate it, but the directions will be in the forum soon. Is that what you were looking for, Rocco?
just mouth it, Rocco. Somebody.
I believe Rocco has something to say anyway.
Nah, don't worry about it. I got nothing to say, dude.
Whose channel is this? Zeb also mentioned there's a problem in the mix of terms, items used.
Oh,
is he-
it
is he talking
stopped them
about-
from automating it.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, because there definitely is a good mix in Peppermint. So
They did miss out on using the X, so they did miss their mark.
Actually, my question for Peppermint is going forward because LXD, can they continue to maintain LXDE? I'm not sure. I'm not too technical enough to know that, but
No, I
can
think
that
they've
be?
actually already decided not to. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when I asked about LXQT being included in Ubuntu, they said that they've already sort of broken and said we're moving forward with LXQT.
were you talking about Peppermint, or were you talking about?
No, I'm talking Peppermint.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking Peppermint, but I'm just wondering whether they themselves continue to maintain LXDE.
Maybe it's an LTS, but I don't think there'll be any kind of like new updates or anything like that.
That's a huge undertaking.
Upstream.
Well, PEP is not. I mean, I think Mark said that there's only 2 functions left of LXDE on Peppermint, and that's LX sessions and LX settings. Is that it, Mark?
Yeah, you've got the. Have you got LX settings? Yeah, you have. Yeah. So because they don't want to do QT, they don't want to do LXQT though, do they? That's from what I remember. They didn't want to do that.
Okay, so we basically only still use LX appearance and LX session. So if necessary, we can fork those, but equally we could swap them out. So I guess they haven't made their decision yet.
What is it? Raspbian is really the only thing that's really using LMDE, other than
LXDE.
I'm sorry. Oh, I
Yeah.
got it. That's Linux
Yeah,
Mint Debian Edition. Oh,
Sorry. No.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably the only thing left. There's not a lot of upstream work being done in LXDE. That's the issue there. There's a few bug fixes coming in, but most of everybody is moved over to LXQT that was working on LXDE. So
Yeah.
And that's using LightDM as a greeter, right?
Because I think it's the LXDE part of it that sort of keeps it that quick side, isn't it? Or it wouldn't really matter too much now. But that's what gives it its speed, isn't it? Because it had a lot of the LXD. Well, it did have. I know they've moved a lot of things with the XFCE components in there, I'm pretty sure. But
yeah, and those are pretty light too. So
yeah.
So I had a question about recently Clear Linux has come up as a thing. Jason Evangelo seemed pretty excited about it. I don't know why, but my knee-jerk sort of gut reaction is I'm a little hesitant to jump on the bandwagon, and I just wasn't sure if anyone was following it or had any thoughts.
I seen something about that during the week. I'm not sure.
Did you listen to the Choose Linux podcast this week?
I didn't yet, no.
Because I started to, and he was talking about it, and he said it's great. I mean, it's got some updates to the installer and everything, so it looks like it's going to be really good. But he did also say that he wouldn't be using it for his daily driver as well. So
When they first announced it, I looked at it and it looked like it was more for containers, or it looked more like a specialist than a desktop variety, but I guess it's in there.
I feel like they're I feel like ClearOS or Clear Linux or whatever it's called. I feel like it is supposed to be specialized, but I don't think they've really decided on how it specializes other than performance.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they're aiming at.
I believe
because
oh, sorry, Tom.
It's okay.
There are separate.
I'm gonna see if I can get. Go ahead.
There are separate. There's ClearOS and then there's Linux Clear. Linux Clear is the Intel one.
Clear Linux.
That they are
Clear Linux.
Clear Linux.
Clear Linux. Yeah.
I'm looking at their website right now.
Yeah, I believe that's the one that they're trying to push out to the desktop. The ClearOS is the one that they're trying to put on the server.
Oh, okay.
And his final opinion was Clear Linux they've made a very good start, and it has a lot of potential, but it's not where it's not mature enough that he would use it as a daily driver.
Right.
And I believe he said that his that they were working on bringing it to the desktop, not so much as a desktop in and of itself, but to make an easier development environment for people who are working on Intel stuff.
Well, if you go to the website and you look at what they're saying, you're right. That's like, I'm sitting here looking at features and so on, and it seems it's not going to be something that you're going to give to your, dear old Aunt Sally and say, here, go, use Linux. It's really, I think it's really designed more for developers.
If you ever look at the benchmarks on Phoronix, you can clearly see that they have a clear advantage. But I think the one thing you will hit a wall with is software.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main problem.
Well, do you think
what
it's,
they're doing is they're doing?
Good.
I think they're doing some sort of optimization in the Linux kernel, because since it's developed by Intel and they understand how Intel CPUs are built, they can optimize that at a much more lower level in their kernel. I'm probably going to install it on
when they put the Linux subsystem into Windows.
It's already in there, just
No.
not.
No. This summer, they're putting an actual Linux kernel into the WSL.
Okay, so you're talking about WSL too,
right? Which is coming out next month, I believe, for the insiders anyway.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to install Clear Linux on my desktop and at least try it out. I'm probably going to see if I can't get Steam on it, because I want to see exactly how fast this is, and I want to figure out why it's fast.
Yeah.
Because if there's something that the Linux community can do where we can figure out why it's so fast and take those changes and somehow apply those changes to other Linux distros, then that can be advantageous for all Linux, not just Clear Linux.
Definitely.
Well, I think, to tell the truth, I think it's going to be hardware optimized for the code.
Yeah, it's hardware
Well, of course.
optimized also for their upcoming GPUs.
Mhm.
That's where they're doing the test bed.
Yeah, of course it is.
Here's the plot twist: the performance comes from not patching their own, vulnerabilities.
Well,
that wouldn't surprise me.
I think he said in the Choose Linux podcast, when he was talking about the Phoronix test, I believe he mentioned that even on the AMD processor, there was still slight advantage to Clear
it is
Linux.
faster even on AMD. Which part of the reason for that is if you go back in history, AMD they share a lot of the same licenses for the x86-64 processor architecture that Intel does. Intel created it initially, and then or something like that, and then AMD shares it. So I can see where a lot of those optimizations would carry over, because they are very similar. And I think that's part of the reason why one of either Spectre or Meltdown was working on both processors, but the other one was not. But I'm sure there are going to be other optimizations in there somewhere that can actually be carried over and are less hardware dependent. Because if it's hardware dependent, then you have someone over here running an Intel processor who's wanting to play, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and they can get great performance. But then the moment you apply that same performance patch to a kernel that's supposed to be run on, PowerPC by IBM, it just breaks the entire thing. So if we can figure out the software-based stuff, that's going to work a little bit better, I think. So I'm going to dig in. If I can't figure out what they're doing exactly in a more software-based level, see if I can't do that on another distro without breaking anything.
So I do have a question about this in Intel, and this isn't really me trying to make waves or anything. So a long time ago, Ike worked on some of this stuff, right? And obviously he no longer is working with Solus. Were rumors that Ike went back to work for Intel.
He did.
And
it's not a rumor.
If he is doing that, that is a gentleman that has a lot of knowledge about operating systems. And if he is able to put some of that work into what's going on now, it's something that we really need to keep an eye on, because Intel also has this one advantage. I mentioned it in the channel. Something that really maybe IBM and Red Hat now would be able to do. But if they come up with a really good operating system that's desktop related, they can throw it on a NUC and they can offer it to companies, offer it to schools. They can sell it. Canonical really can't do that. They don't have that unless they would partner or, with something, and it would still wouldn't be from them. Intel can go and say, look, we have an operating system and we have hardware. We can just sell you this. It's really cheap. And I don't know. It's going to be really
We're Apple now.
Well, I'll tell you what, those NUCs, if you were to sell it as an appliance, because that's essentially what it would be at that point, they're powerful enough to do. I mean, we were talking, maybe it was last week, a couple of weeks ago, about the idea of, going back to the client server model and just dumb terminals or very low power terminals, with low spec, and that could be something for them. But obviously, I think they're more focused probably on the enterprise containers, and that's really the growth area, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kept that focus primarily for that. But I learned more about micro-architectural data sampling than I ever wanted to know this week. Go watch. There was a great video from one of the Red Hat engineers, and it's amazing to me that if there is any possible way to exploit something, someone eventually will just figure it out. I don't know if they just have enough time on their hands, if they see it as a challenge, whatever it is. But this whole being able to see across this predictive sampling and all, the way that the architecture of the processors was working, they just figured, well, it's invisible. No one's ever going to see it. Well, apparently they can. And so.
Oh, the zombie load.
Yeah, zombie load. And I guess AMD's, again, just invulnerable to this, and makes me think, is this going to be a boost for AMD if you can start to sell the fact that maybe, this mitigates some of that risk?
No,
no,
it's not.
Adam says no.
It didn't affect AMD's stock. It didn't affect AMD's market share. It's not going to affect them at all, to be honest. I mean, it's a matter of availability. When you're looking for purchasing servers and purchasing desktops and laptops, especially, Intel dominates. Like, it's simply that AMD just isn't there in terms of availability. So it's kind of like, we all know Windows has problems with malware. Windows has problems with security, yet 825 million people use Windows 10. So, it's there. I don't think this is going to make a dent.
Does it push then, and maybe this is more for data center, does it push, ARM or RISC or something like that? Maybe,
I think most of the industry's shifting towards ARM anyway because of the power consumption and heat dissipation issues that pretty much vanish when you switch from x86 over to ARM.
So I could see ARM being a more compelling option for the laptop and potentially the desktop if we can, potentially make clusters of ARM SoCs on single die or something. But as far as the data center goes, there's so many legacy applications that just don't run on the ARM architecture, and I don't see any real transition happening within the next 5 years at least.
No.
It's going to take forever for that to move over, if it moves over at all. So
it was a little disappointing for me when Intel basically said, that you didn't have to worry about hyperthread. They were, in my opinion, they were downplaying, the severity of this, and that, let's say it is I think they said something like 7 to 10% or 8 to 10%. If the fix would, cut into performance. I mean, I know when I was a sysadmin, that's what I would leave as my sort of stopgap or my overhead on a system, right? You'd never want it to be running pegged at 100%. Now all of a sudden you got to go back and readjust that. It's a tough situation to be in. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, 7, 8, 9%, but that's a lot.
Yeah, and the issue with removing hyperthreading is that it doesn't completely negate the vulnerability. It reduces the the overhead of the vulnerability, but the vulnerability is still going to be there, and it is still exploitable in some ways, from what I understand. I'm not a security researcher by any stretch, but so if I were trying to make a kind of an assessment of that, like for most applications, I'm just going to keep hyperthreading going. But if I absolutely have to have the most hardened security possible, then yeah, you're gonna have to make some capacity plans and figure out what you're gonna do. But as far as desktops and everything goes, I mean, unless you're like some paranoid parrot, like just leave your hyperthreading going. You'll be fine. No one cares.
I'm pretty sure Steve Gibson from Security Now said that individuals on their desktop, you leave it. It's fine. The only time you're really going to, the only people that are really at risk are servers that are running multiple systems next to each other, because it's that bleed over from like one VM to the next. So unless you're working in a cloud environment, with multiple servers on a single instance, you really are not at risk. So he said, if you're on your desktop PC, unless you're doing, major multiple VMs on your PC, leave it all turned on. You're fine.
And of course,
And I think even if you have it on your own PC, you probably have reduced a lot of the effects of it as well. It's probably more like if you get into a VPS or something like that, where those VMs, you don't control the next VM that's next to you,
right?
Whereas you might on your own home system, or even if it's a data center that you control all the VMs on. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, if you can ensure the security of all of your VMs on whatever machine it might be running on, then it's not that big a deal. But if Joe next door, no offense, Joe, is running some crazy malware, then you can't really.
And the research papers came out the beginning of last year. I mean, it's been more than a year, and there is still not a single instance out in the wild of any exploits for these things that with this major blow up that everybody was going crazy over, and there's not still more than a year later, which is unheard of in terms of bad guys penetrating into systems whenever they can.
Yeah, they're more interested in the low hanging fruit, the easier exploits, the easier access and everything. They're not worried about trying to get access to your actual silicon and everything. Like that's way too difficult to. I mean, even the data you would get from that would be like an astronomical amount of data in just a matter of seconds that you'd have to sift through. I mean, it'd probably be too expensive to even sort all the data and find actual passwords and goodies among all that. It probably wouldn't be worth doing, to be honest. But whereas you can
you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
We can, PZ.
We can hear you.
Superb. Yeah. I think what people have forgotten as well about this Intel stuff is, and it's not saying that it's not Intel's fault, but when they put all these designs together for this chipset 40 years ago, they had no idea that the computers that we've got today would be so fast and so efficient. And it was too late by that time to go back and take them out of the design. And to retool and make a new design now is going to cost them billions. So, as everyone's been saying, that who knows of somebody who's been hit by one of these Intel bugs? I don't.
Cricket.
I don't.
Cricket.
Yeah, because they knew about the flaws back in the 90s, but they were like, it's never going to happen. Nobody's going to be able to do anything with this. And even now that the computers are powerful enough to get the minute little bits of information, it takes so long to get anything useful, if you ever do. And like I said, it's been more than a year, and there's not a single instance of an exploit showing up in the wild.
Exploits will happen eventually.
If they were to attack all 20 people in here, all they'd get is Big Daddy links.
Those are precious.
Yeah. So you didn't get your issues fixed, did you, Zeb, with the other computer?
No, I'm on the laptop.
So, you still have? Did you ever install another distro to find out if it was hardware related, or?
Yeah, I tried. I took absolutely everything out, put the NVMe drive back in, installed Pep Fresh, and it's still doing it. So I took every other drive out, left just the one with OpenSUSE and Salient in there, and it's still doing it. Before I come back here, I thought, hang on a minute, I've got too many USB things connected to this machine. Because it all started when I suddenly, I think for the first time ever, had a blue screen on Windows, and it was this USB not error thing. And I thought, oh, here we go. So I've even taken out my middle monitor, which had a 4-port USB hub on it, and just got the barest minimum connected via USB, and the machine is still going all wrong. And I am useless at diagnosing what's wrong. So this one's going in the bin, and I'll be ordering another one once I speak to the wife in the morning. I just don't deal with like, oh, take this out and take that out. No, in my luck, it's probably just a dodgy RAM stick. I don't know. It's
what happens,
it freezes, it drops programs, it freezes and reboots. I'll be copying files, and it will stop copying the files, and it will freeze. I joined on Zoom, and Zoom just stopped and went off again. You name it, it's happening.
Yeah, that's very frustrating when that stuff happens, because like it's very hard to diagnose.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, because that's pretty much kind of what happened to me today with Mint. I was having flickering on this particular computer. It's the little cube computer that I built. And today, all of a sudden, the screen went black. And I couldn't get it to reboot. And ironically, I just put another stick of RAM in there today. So I thought, well, maybe I got a bad RAM stick. I took the RAM stick out, booted again. It did the same thing again. I changed the monitors. I did all this stuff. And the irony of it is, I booted, and I hate to admit this on here, and my friends the Hangout I was in, I boot up into the Windows 10 drive that was on here just to see if it was in fact a hardware issue, and I had no problems. I ran for an hour and a half in Windows 10, and it was fine. That told me it was Mint. I put Ubuntu Studio on here, haven't had a problem since. So it obviously, in that case for me, I put the other stick back in, the other RAM, it was a Mint issue on my case. So something got corrupted somewhere along the line.
Well, this is doing it on Pep, Arch, OpenSUSE, you name it. So it's not, I don't think it's any of the distro's fault. It's something has gone wrong with the hardware. And like I said, I don't have the patience to go, right, let's go down to 8 gig of RAM. And is it that one? No, let's put another 8 gig of RAM in. No, it's not that one. Let's put, oh, look, I found it's 8 gig of RAM. I just, out the window, go and buy a new one.
I know, I've gotten this. I am now the same way. I don't want to deal with all that anymore. Spent too much time, monkeying around trying to get something to work, and it still never works, and go, forget it. I'm just going to get something
new. Do you have onboard graphics on your motherboard by chance?
Yeah, there is onboard graphics there.
Did you pull your video card out and try running the onboard graphics and see if it is in the graphics card?
Did you hear what I just said about I hate diagnosing faults?
We have now had our first hardware next.
Have you tried going into the BIOS or UEFI? There's usually like a setting you can go just to do like a hardware check.
Have you
and
tried
it does everything?
turning it on and off again?
Go and then.
Yeah,
I don't know if the UEFI does any checks.
There's usually
actually like an option there.
Yeah.
You just hit go and it does everything for you.
Modern BIOSes usually have the tests in them.
Is that I can do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be
the other thing. If you did want to take the time, the way to do it is kind of what you were talking about: is strip everything out of that machine, but the bare bones to get it running, and then. Okay.
Wow. I'm just going to phone my friend up and tell him he's got an early Christmas present, because I've been around his house before, and he's got this whole room set up with a workbench and meters and electrical stuff and soldering on. He'll have a field day with the amount of kit inside this box.
You're
But
not
it'll
talking
just
about
be
beat by chance.
hello Threadripper, hello 2080 Ti.
Yeah, there you go.
So Zeb, you're saying it was the low latency kernel?
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying.
Oh my lord! Which is more, and all that does is supposed to run more efficient mode, so you're not using as much power. That's basically what that's about.
Yeah, and
sounds
someone was
like
trying to say, yeah, is it anything to do with the power supply? Well, it's the power supply is only 6 months old. I had to buy it when I got the 1070. The 1070 is not that old. I seriously think it's probably my hard disks have given up with installing 300 different distros in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I've noticed my laptop hard drive's getting really, really slow. I've noticed as well. I might have to swap that out because I had 10, 13 partitions with 13 different operating systems on it. I don't do that anymore because I think it's just ruined it.
And that's why, like today, I was listening to some of the reviews earlier before mine, and yes, there are some distros, this one included, that does not play well or work in a VM as much as it'd be nice to try them that way. So in fairness, you can't really give a fair review of something like that. Number one, it's not on bare metal. So to some extent, you got to take that with a grain of salt. But then when you're having real problems with it, it's not fair to give a review on something like that if it just isn't made for doing that too.
So with the new computer, Zeb will be Team Brown. Because he'll be green and red.
Green and red is brown. Yep.
That's where it's at.
Or team greed. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Anybody got anything last minute they want to throw in here before we go?
Yeah, I lost 10 pounds in the last week and a half.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, well done, man.
Nice job, Adam.
I love it.
I found him.
Did you find him?
I found him. He lost him. I found him.
I still got plenty. You can keep him.
I'm so worried about being on this trip, boy. I can't cook.
Yeah, well,
Cooking
some
is
of us
fun.
can't cook even when we're home.
I can.
Eric, you said you wanted to bring up KDE, the new release.
I think I may have pushed as far as I'm willing to push right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll tell you
Well
what, Eric,
said, sir.
I'll jump on the bandwagon for you because Kubuntu 1804, for me, when it first came out, was the best of the Ubuntus. Kubuntu 1804 is an awesome distro, and everything I heard you saying about the desktop and the way it works with the triple monitors, it's the only one where I don't have to run a fancy NVIDIA start script to get that monitor there. The one in the middle that I then max out to 4K, and the one on the right, it just remembers all of the settings and boots up next time round. So if you're going to be doing Kubuntu next week, I don't think I'll be getting my new PC by then, but who knows, I might fix the old one.
I think the last thing I'll say is that everybody, the meme or the joke for KDE is that the settings have settings. I mean, Chicken said that earlier, and it's true. It's true. I mean, I will readily admit that, but they do such a good job of communicating all of the things that they're changing. So you've got Nate over Pointy Stick talking about like what they are, the usability stuff that's happening. So what I was going to mention is that the latest version of Plasma is 5.16 is in beta right now, and it's a lot of little quality of life things. The notifications are better. They've done some work on the system settings panel. It's if you read down through, it's a lot of stuff. So that's what I find sort of slightly puzzling is that there's a huge community around it. There's a lot of people doing a lot of work on it on a regular basis. And so, I mean, to me, I spent most of my day just testing all of that new stuff. And as a KDE user, there's some really neat things happening. So
I think the real question is when we're going to get the video about all the features from Rocco.
Well, there's this guy on YouTube that has a channel that probably doesn't make many videos anymore. Does a live stream. But he has some KDE videos you can look at this week, Bash, in case you need anything. All right. Yeah. Anyway, check the videos out. Two things. One, I want to say to our community member Steve, who emails every week. I think he sent me 4 or 5 emails this week about his experiences with his testing with Ubuntu's and Ubuntu Mate specifically. And I have not got a chance to respond, Steve, but keep the emails coming because I love reading them. And I got one more question for you guys. So there has been some talk about, and me and Zeb had talked about it earlier. There's been some talk about asking for an audio release of this program, like to a feed. And it would add a lot of time editing, like at the end, because this show is way different. Like when I used to edit Destination Linux, that would take hours to edit regardless. But that was only 4 people talking, sometimes 2 or 3. When there's 20 people at different audio levels, it would be a nightmare to try to normalize and get right, and with some background noises and whatnot. So I would like to hear some suggestions on, if we should put it out as an audio feed or if we shouldn't, or where we would put it out as an audio feed if we did. Should we, some people get their own server, some people use a client like Fireside, and so it's like, give me some suggestions on what do you guys think in general of putting this stream out as an audio feed only?
I would not worry that much about the audio levels, because a lot of the podcasts I listen to, TLLTS, the Linux Link Tech Show, the Linux Lads, I listen to several group like this meetings where people get together, and I think I have yet to have one where all the levels are consistent and equal.
You just said don't
I
worry.
spend a lot of time on mine. That's not true. They're not.
I would honestly say I wouldn't worry about it too much either, because if somebody really wanted the audio version, they could literally just grab the little share link, drop it in a YouTube to MP3 converter, download.
Yes, but Thomas, yes, they could do that. But I guess what I'm saying is for people's ease of use, like for people who
like an RSS feed.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
people
more
who listen
importantly-
to podcasts, they want to be able to listen to this show like they listen to, say, Destination Linux in their podcast app.
Right.
That's basically what they're looking for.
But what's more importantly is that you said that that they could do that, or the person making the podcast could do it and save them time, because it only takes like 10 seconds. So actually, like, as the person who's creating
Honestly, yeah.
you just run a script, you're done.
Yeah.
So write the script for Rocco and send it over to him.
That
Set it
will
all
be
up.
4 years from now, Dave.
tuxdigital.com
I don't think I-
Rocco to podcast.
Well, I
actually
said
don't think I need to.
I said,
'cause
okay,
it's
I
not
could
work.
write the script in 10 seconds, but it's not on my agenda right now. I have to check my schedule.
Hey, Rocco, I'm just going to throw it
And,
out there. Why don't I talk to Michael and let's see what 10 seconds really means. And
Okay,
it's just
my time management is not very good. I will admit.
terrible.
your exaggeration skills are excellent.
Says a week sounds like 3 days.
Well, Zeb is going to check out a few avenues himself on what can be done. So I'm just throwing it out there to you guys so that if there's any suggestions you have on, like I said, anything, any part of it, where it should be hosted or whatever, anything, just let me know.
Why don't we just start with pulling the audio out and seeing what it sounds like, and we can play around with just clipping and just making sure that it's not too loud, not too quiet. I mean,
well, I don't have any problem with making it like I can do that through Audacity. My concern is the different levels between speakers, and Audacity does an okay job of doing it somewhat, but it doesn't completely measure it out.
I think you're never going to get to a point where it's equal, considering how many people are on the show.
Well, that's my point. That's what I was
maybe
saying.
put it out to the room, because there are people that are going to be listening to it. Before I joined you guys, I would put you on, and like I'd be cooking dinner or something like that, and it's almost like being a podcast because I couldn't be able to watch. I just had the laptop going, and
tell you,
for someone like me, that's fine, and that's the same principle, as a podcast. if they just want to hear us and the banter and that, they're not going to care.
I mean, I think if you were to just basically say, look, this is the audio version or the audio only version of this live stream, that sort of sets an expectation. You're not saying it's a podcast that's like produced as a audio first.
Well, again, I go back to that, Eric. When you say you're releasing it as a podcast, you can get it compared to other podcasts who have perfect audio quality, and it's kind of expected to have good quality audio when you're releasing it as a podcast.
Yes.
Except a lot of the
don't
big
release
group,
it as a podcast.
Linux just
Release it as the audio version of the YouTube.
Right.
Don't use the word podcast.
Yeah, and as long as you
Use
don't
live
have,
session as a name. Don't use the
as long as you don't
podcast.
have somebody blasting out, you know what I mean? I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know if we're stuttering here, but Rocco, right now, to me, listening, you're probably one of the softest voices.
Yeah, a bit low. Yep.
Yeah, you gotta get closer, or you gotta get like right up in the microphone. Like,
I can get right up in the mic if you like.
That's better. That is much better sound.
But the point is I think this isn't horrible if you were listening as a podcast, as long as you don't have somebody that comes on blaring.
Well, but see that you do at times, Joe.
You will.
I mean,
There's always going to be. There's so many, because there's so many people. There's so much fluctuation. It's impossible to. It's not even worth trying to level them out.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
It's like,
but you
it's like
level them
Michael's
out.
probably
You're
20% higher than everyone else at the moment.
What's that?
Maybe that's possible.
Well, actually, so Michael spends a lot of time trying to get the levels right on Destination Linux, and Noah is usually 20% louder than you guys. Like he'll blow your ears out if you're so even whenever it's tightly controlled. Well, I'm just saying the last episode in particular that I listened to, it was just like, geez. I mean,
sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah,
but-
Rocco, on Linux Gamecast, we do it all in hardware. In fact, Ven has, records our audio on our bikes separately and then mixes them together. We have a full studio because he was a voiceover artist and
the sound is perfect.
Broadcaster. Yes. So
You
we
can
work
tell.
very hard. I mean,
Been stowed.
yes. Like right now, I'm going through a Behringer preamp to a Behringer compressor limiter 4-channel. From that, I go to a Behringer DAC that inputs into the computer.
Nobody on here is going to do that.
So, Rocco, you just need to send out all that Behringer stuff to everybody who shows up.
Right.
Yeah, and we get people turn up on a phone.
Right.
So,
But I think that again, I go back to
Guitar Hero Mike. Yes.
I've only got a Rode microphone into an Allen and Heath deck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
don't
have
even
a
have
USB.
a DAC.
I plug it right in, and there it is.
Yeah, this is a USB mic.
Yeah, USB.
In terms of getting it out, Rocco, I think it's the Linux Mint podcast actually streams it out through a Raspberry Pi, and if we can track down how to do that, I'll donate a Pi. To do the streaming out.
All right, we got another one. Tux Digital.
Is there no application that can normalize audio in the one video? Or
The
not?
only way to do it right is the way that Linux Gamecast does it, and that is to record each audio channel separately.
Right, separately.
But I would need to record like 20 different channels separately.
Yeah. Or everybody would have to record
show.
their own
Yes.
and then send it to Rocco, and then he'd have to spend all the time.
That's going to end back.
Yeah, the idea is not
find
to
a level
create.
later, maybe.
The idea is not
Wait,
to
that's still not
create
worth
an extra amount of work to do after the show. This is for fun, and it's great that it is. And like I said, I don't mind releasing the audio if it's only going to be a little bit, but I don't
Just call it an audio cast instead of a podcast.
But I'm not going to create an extra 2 hours worth of work a week.
But we also did come up with a very good thing that says if you want to listen to this on your phone, just turn the screen off on YouTube.
The problem
Just
is that
load up the YouTube app, play it, but don't watch it.
Flip phones too. So
yeah, most people want to use it on their phone because they want a podcast app that can control like the playback speed, that can control this. When you done listening to it for a certain time, you can save your placement. Whereas YouTube is like 50% chance you're going to get that to work. So like that's the reason why people want to use it on their phone.
Yes, because Noah Chalaya does not speak fast enough as it is.
I actually listened to his show at 2 times speed.
And I have no clue how you do that. I do it at 1.3 and can barely keep up.
Well, I talk to him so much that I'm just used to his type of talking. So it's just like, let's just get through it, Noah.
Yeah, so
Connor,
that's something
there's
we're going to
always
look
one
at.
in there. Look, Mark Greaves, the YouTube chat is going to be rubbish in audio only. If we ever meet up, Greavesy, I'm telling you.
Well,
I got a
that's just
solution.
something-
All you got to do is get one of those text to speech things and synthesize that on top of the actual show part.
That's just something that we're looking at because it's not the first person that's asked. There's many people that have asked about the audio version, so it's something we can look at. I don't know. We'll see what
If
happens.
we can preface it with, this is a audio dump. This is not processed or anything like that.
Yeah, just call it an audio edition.
Yeah, don't call it podcast. Just call it an audio. The audio edition.
Yeah, because the other thing happens here too is not just the audio levels, but when you get a podcast when there's 2 or 3 people going, you have less cutoff where people are talking over each other.
Right, who would do that?
You kind of work together. You know when the person, but when you got 20 people and they got latency in between and their connection, people are talking over each other. 4 people are talking at once.
You ready, everybody? Let's all give it a try. Let's all start talking over each other and see what it sounds like when we play it back.
Try doing that. Yeah, let's not try that.
It's like a great idea.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, here we go.
Rocco's having fits up here. Look.
And we all get music.
Deb, you're sacked.
That's it.
Pixel
smashing. All right.
Just
That's
imagine
it.
editing that audio, right?
I think you're right. You know what it would be? It would be cut. Gone. It wouldn't even be editing.
Next. We don't know what happened to those tapes. They were 18 minutes missing.
All right. So those are some things to think about during the week besides Kubuntu 1904. But we are past time.
How dare you? Kubuntu 1904 is the only thing to think about.
I did it, Michael. I did it.
On that note, Vash, last word.
Thanks for the stream as always, and we'll see how Kubuntu goes. I've already got it installed, so yeah.
Jill, last word.
Oh, thank you for having me on, and I'll try and do it once a month. Right now, Linux Gamecast is on our big Saturday show, so it's hard for me to get away. But
Yeah.
I want to try at least once a month.
That would be awesome.
Yay!
You're always welcome.
Jill, there's a Europe edition that's at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. So
That
I
might work
know
for you.
that once a month. That would be great. Yeah. That would be great. I might do that.
All right. Eric, last word.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to go figure out what this Kubuntu thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we get a chance to try it. I'm looking forward to everybody's feedback for this week. Studio, good stuff. Again, not something that I can benefit from, but I'm really glad that they were able to keep their status and keep moving forward. And I'm expecting great things out of the continuation of that project. And of course, Rocco, thank you for the stream and good to see everybody tonight.
Eris, last word.
Thank you for the stream. Ubuntu Studio, I really appreciate the effort of what it's doing for the Linux community. It's one of the areas that it really struggles in sometimes. And Neon for the win.
Nice. Peter. You're muted, Peter.
You're muted.
It's the best part of Peter.
Wow.
There you go. Okay. I don't know who muted me because I actually self-muted on my own microphone. Okay. Yesterday, I had an anniversary of sorts. As I'm now 20 years in America. So watch out, Zeb, they might keep you. But I landed in Newark Airport, New Jersey 20 years ago.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Great having you here.
Adam, last word.
Thanks for the show. It's always a good time, like chatting with you folks, even though I usually don't say much. But for those of you who are going, Southeast Linux Fest registration is open. You should probably get on that.
Yeah. Colin, Southeast Linux Fest is open.
Sorry?
Southeast Linux Fest registration is open. You going?
Only going to cost you $4,000. You get
Right?
this.
It's really cheap this time of year, Colin.
Yeah, right. I'm sure it is. Yeah, I'll catch some. I'll jump in a little metal dinghy and row me way
Float
there.
to self.
Swim across the pond. You'll be fine.
Anyway, Rocco, Sue Studio was fun. But anyway, I'm looking forward to Kubuntu this week, and we'll see how we go with that. And I'll tweak my life away during the week, see how we go, see if I can get lost.
There you go.
Always enjoy Sunday morning, Rocco. It's great fun. Thanks very much.
Paul, last word.
Low latency kernel.
Wait, did Vin join us?
No.
Yes.
Dan, last word.
I don't think I can top that.
No, you can't.
No. Looking forward to the plasma thing. I've used it once or twice, so pretty good stuff. So that should be a good week. As always, thanks for the stream.
Barb, last word.
Thanks for the stream, and I'm glad to see that Jill joined us. That was great. And I'll try to do Kubuntu.
Try. Okay.
Try.
Frank.
And thanks to the studio guys for putting that out and for all the work they did in keeping the flavor status. So, and then we'll see how this dolphin thing is going to go.
Number one file manager in the planet. Right.
Agreed. Yeah. 2 file manager, Nemo for the win.
There we go.
Tony.
Compared to other dolphins, yeah.
Tony, last word.
I'd just like to say thank you, Rocco, for doing this every week, especially the Europe edition. I really enjoy being part of it and meeting all these lovely people. Such a good community, and I look forward to joining you all again, hopefully next week.
Cool.
Nice. Dave, last word, brother.
Thank you, Rocco. Welcome, Jill. Thank you very much to the developers of Ubuntu Studio, and looking forward to KDE settings, the IKEA of software. You get in and never get out.
Joe, last word.
Thanks again for another fun night. And right now I'm in a low latency lighting position, as you can tell, compared to my dorm. But no, it's been fun, and thank you to Ubuntu Studio. I do think it's a fantastic distro. As many of these distros, none of them are 100% perfect. But you know what? Neither is Windows, neither is Mac, neither is the rest of them. And I still think having this kind of a choice is the best thing that anybody could ever have. So I hope they keep up the great work. And thanks again.
Chris, last word.
As usual, this has been one of the highlights of my week, and I just enjoy being able to partake and attempt to stay conscious as much as possible. So
I saw you nodding off earlier there. I think it was the low latency kernel talk, because I was about to myself.
If I sit down too long, that's when it happens. But I'm glad to see Jill come aboard. I've been a fanboy of deck equipment for a long time, and still looking to get a PDP 1173 set up in the museum if I can.
Cool.
But, anyway, I hope to see you guys next week.
All right, Thomas, last word.
Well, thanks for having me on the stream again this week. It's been a lot of fun. I hope I can try Kubuntu this week. I make no promises since I have the Drugger OS release next Saturday. So I am going to be overwhelmed with work. If you want to try out that release next week, you can go to druggeros.org, courtesy of Rocco up there getting us that new domain. Thanks, Rocco. And I also want to thank Eric and Yannick for helping us out with debugging a little bit earlier today. I greatly appreciate that. We never have enough debuggers as it is. Yeah, thanks again.
Steve, last word.
I want to thank all of you Linux friends for helping me keep my sanity while I'm out here beautiful Brattleboro, Vermont, with nothing to do in the evening, I might break down and pay for the extra internet. I might as well. I got a few days left here. So thank you, everybody.
PZ, last word.
Well, these are really my first words as well, because it's the PC woes I've had tonight. But what I was going to say with regard to Ubuntu Studio is if you want to go and check out Destination Linux episode 108, we did an interview with Eric where he explained all of those things that we were talking about with the work that they've done to get it back on track. I really enjoyed my time with it. It's a great XFCE, and it's just not for me because I'm not into all that audio stuff. But for me, the highlight of the week, Pep 10 released. Try it out. It is awesome. As long as you've got the hardware to run it on.
Michael, last word.
Savor the moment. Oh, damn it.
I was muted, so I mean that's a little bit awkward. But Kubuntu is the best, so that solves all the questions. Also, Peter has a fantastic shirt on right now. And where'd you get that shirt, Peter?
At the mail.
That's the shirt too.
Yeah, you got you.
I thought you were going to say tuxdigital.com/low latency kernel.
All right. I want to thank everyone for being here. You can join us checking out Kubuntu 1904 this week. You can join us in the Telegram group because JJ's not here. You can join us in Discord or just, whatever. Wait till next week and then we'll talk again.
Got IRC too.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I got a comment on YouTube asking about the IRC. It is #Big Daddy Linux live on Freenode, so you can check that out. Although there isn't many people chatting in it, so we could use some people in there chatting, right? All right. Everybody have a good week, and remember, long live Linux.
Long live Linux.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
The royal wave.
Yes.